Welcome to The Fight on Matrix Midwest with Randy Karraker and company.
Hi kids, happy Tuesday and welcome to The Fight. Great to have you with us. That's Andrew, I'm Randy, and we are Cardinals and Blues Rumor Central this morning. We've also got a visit with our friend Katie Wu of The Athletic from spring training down in Jupiter. And today is a miserable anniversary if you're a Cardinal fan. We've got that and more for you here on The Fight. But first, Yankees DH. Yeah, you wonder, why are we talking Yankees in St. Louis? Yankees DH Giancarlo Stanton, who dealt with sore elbows for most of last season, went back to New York to get his ailing arms looked at by really good doctors. I guess they have the better doctors in New York, Andrew, than they do in Tampa. And Stanton hasn't swung a bat for weeks. He hasn't done any baseball-related activities in spring training. So how does this affect you? Well, here's how. Because the Yankees need a right-handed hitter if Stanton can't go. And the Cardinals have a right-handed hitter that they're trying to get rid of. That's how it makes sense.
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny that you mentioned the doctors in New York. You'd think that they'd want to go to Germany like Christian McCaffrey to get all those stem cell treatments in order to keep yourself healthy.
He had an itis, right? He
did. He had some itis.
Yeah, I think he had ankle tendonitis or something like that. And his elbow tendonitis.
Right, and so Nolan Arenado makes perfect sense going to the Yankees once again. It is not just a right-handed bat, but they're also in need of a third baseman. They don't have a Hall of Famer over at third.
DJ LeMahieu.
Yeah, DJ LeMahieu is ancient. He is. I mean, you would find him hanging on the wall in a museum at this point.
He's buddies with Arenado, though.
He is buddies with Arenado, and he would be a viable fit as maybe a DH. I don't see him as a defender anymore. This is a guy that has just played baseball for over 40 years now, and he's just not it for the Yankees. And then everybody behind him is not it for the Yankees. They have Cabrera, who's so-so. They have Velasquez, who's like, try again. And then they have Shoemake, who's like, okay, who? Who is this guy? No, Arenado is what this team is missing.
Yeah, and by the way, another part about this with Stanton, you think about what the Cardinals almost had in the offseason of 2018 when they had a deal done with the Marlins for Stanton, but he had a no trade and said he'd only go to the Cubs, Dodgers, Astros, or Yankees. They were the final four teams in the playoffs the year before in 2017. The Marlins reportedly wanted the Cardinals' top prospect, Alex Reyes, their number 3 prospect, Jack Flaherty, or their number 9 prospect, who wound up going to the Marlins, Sandy Alcantara. Well, Stanton has averaged only 110 games a year in his 6 full Yankee seasons, and we aren't including the COVID season here. And if the Cardinals would have gotten him, they never would have gotten Goldschmidt. They never would have gotten Arenado. They were going to take $250 million of the Stanton contract. He would have been a disaster had he decided to come to the Cardinals. And you folks on social media that didn't like Pujols and didn't like didn't like Matt Holliday, you would have really hated Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, it was a blessing that the Cardinals did not get him. Yeah. It was a $325 million contract that he got with the Yankees. I mean, you've seen the Cardinals not want to spend that sort of money at all, ever. Right? When was the last time the Cardinals wanted to put a price tag on a player like that? And Giancarlo Stanton was that player that was that superstar at the time. But think about the injuries that happened year after year with Stanton. And then he was on the field for what, 2 full seasons? Yes, he won an ALCS MVP last year, but that's not enough to get you to say that was worth $325 million.
Well, and that really spooked the Cardinals because ever since then, they have been so reluctant. Well, they've been completely reluctant to give a player more than a 7-year contract. When they picked up Arenado, he was in the midst of a 7-year deal. They gave him the extra year to make it seven years. But they are never going to sign under this ownership a player that is getting paid for 10 years because the Cardinals look at the back end of those contracts, and they never work out. I mean, when you look at what the Rangers did, it didn't work out for them when they signed Alex Rodriguez. The Stanton contract didn't work out. We'll see how things work out at the back end of the Machado and Harper contracts. The Mike Trout contract, I think we can safely say, did not work out well, that 10-year deal for the Angels. I think it's reasonable on the part of the Cardinals, who have limited revenues relative to what the Yankees or Mets or Dodgers have. Dodgers can afford to make a Jacoby Ellsbury mistake, and it doesn't affect them. The Cardinals can't make a mistake like that and still go out and get players, and maybe they'll never get those kind of players again, but at least in the recent past, they aren't able to make a mistake for $30 million a year for the back end of a 10-year contract.
Yeah, the recovery time would just be too drastic for a team like St. Louis. You just don't have the money, the market share in order to do something like that. And, you know, you brought up Pujols, and I think Pujols is a great example of this. People were mad that the Cardinals were not able to sign Pujols to a long-term contract, but there was something in the back of minds, at least the smart baseball minds, of, is 10 years too long for a guy where, you know, people were tossing around, is he actually the age that they think he is, and things like that. But Pujols didn't pan out in LA. Like, he had, what, 3 or 4 probably good seasons with the Angels, and then it just all kind of just leveled out when he came back to the Cardinals. Of course, it was fun. He was chasing the home run number. It was just good to have a guy like that back. But it just goes to show that those long-term deals will never work out. Even just think about Juan Soto. He's 26 years old, but he's getting paid for 15 years.
Yeah.
He's going to be 41 when that contract expires. Do you think when he's 36 years old, Juan Soto is still going to be hitting 40 bombs, 116 RBIs? It's hard to stay healthy in the sport of baseball.
Only if they start allowing steroids again. That's the only way it's going to happen.
And that's fun for baseball.
Yeah. One other note about Stanton, by the way. Mo said that he's not going to chase injuries. I'm telling you this. If I'm in John Mozeliak's shoes, I'm calling Brian Cashman and I'm laying the groundwork. Well, you might not have your player anymore because of the elbow injury, so just in case, why don't we start talking about an Arenado scenario? And that way, we can have the money in place so that when you find out that you don't have Stanton for the next 3 or 4 months, that you have a player in place. We can make the deal that day. I'm making that call if I'm Mo.
Yeah, well, and you sounded just like him. So maybe you should just make the call anyway and just act like him, and then sure enough, we could get something done.
Yeah, and you know what? It's all about money. I don't care about what I get back. As long as I can get my money down and get Nolan Gorman reps at third base, I'm good. By the way, the Cardinals are back on TV today on FanDuel for more spring training action. They take on the Blue Jays at 12:07, and you can see that game on FanDuel Sports Midwest. And I believe Alexa Datt is working with Brad Thompson today, so you want to tune in for that. The NHL trade deadline is a week from Friday, March 7th at 2 o'clock Central Time. The Blues have 6 games before the deadline, and they're only 5 points out of the second wildcard spot in the NHL's Western Conference. So might these 6 games, I think they would, determine whether or not the Blues would buy or sell, or actually, I think stand pat. I would be very surprised if Doug Armstrong would buy at this point. If they're tied for the second wildcard spot, that means they're really hot. And one thing that Doug Armstrong does is if he has a group of players that's playing well, he doesn't want to upset the chemistry in the room. So I would be surprised if the Blues would be a buyer. If they're out of it, I could see them selling a few players. But I really think as we get closer to the deadline, we'll have a good idea as to whether or not the Blues are going to sell or stand pat. But I don't think that they're, or buy or sell pat. I would be surprised if the Blues would upset the chemistry of the room if they've won 5 out of 6.
Yeah, and those 6 games are really going to tell the story. It's a situation that it's kind of nice to be in because you can kind of just lay the groundwork for yourself on who you will be come the trade deadline. It would shock me too if they ended up being buyers at this point. It would make more sense if they bought in the offseason. There's a lot of unrestricted free agents out there that could be that goal scorer that you're searching for. I brought up Brock Besser on this show before. Matt Duchene is another guy. He's a little bit older, but
he will never be a Blue, I can guarantee you.
But at least that's like the price tag in terms of like what I'm looking at. Somebody that's maybe $4 or $5 million AAV that doesn't breach that $8 million mark, which is around where Besser will be. Rantanen and Marner are the guys you want, right? Those are the guys that will be those top-tier goal scorers, but you're not going to pay $11, $12 million for those 2 guys. You just don't have the money for it.
And I know this sounds strange because this particular group of players hasn't had a great level of success, but I would be really surprised if the Blues, from the top on down, Tom Stillman, Chris Zimmerman, Doug Armstrong, would bring in a player that's never worn the blue note and have him be their highest paid player right off the bat. A lot of times that doesn't go over very well in the room. And if you don't know a player, I mean, the Blues thought they knew Thomas and Karraker. They thought that they would ascend to a higher level than they are right now. But I would be very surprised if the Blues would bring in somebody that they don't know and make them immediately the highest paid player.
Unless they're Connor McDavid. Unless they're Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah, but,
right? Then you just know in the room, okay, I'm not the best here.
By the way, our buddy Jeremy Rutherford at The Athletic wrote about the notion of trading Jordan Binnington at the deadline. And one issue the Blues have run into there would be a return that wouldn't include a first-round pick because of the recent history of goalie trades, especially at the deadline in the NHL. I wouldn't trade him if I didn't get a number 1 pick back. And I think I'd have to get a pick and a player based upon what happened at Four Nations.
And I don't think you're going to get a number 1 pick back for Jordan Binnington. I don't know if a team values him like a number 1 pick, but I'm with you. And here's why I don't want to trade a goalie. It's because it's very difficult to find a good goaltender in the NHL, somebody that is not only a winner, but a consistent winner. You can say all you want that you don't like the way Jordan Binnington plays, but over the last few seasons, he's been the bright spot of this team. The people in front of him have been the problem, but he just gets the shaft because you live and die by the goaltender. And so if you can keep a guy like Binnington, I know Hofer's a good goalie, and he was a high pick, and he deserves his time too. But it's
so did Ville Husso, right?
And that's where I'm kind of going with this, Randy, because it's really hard once you trade a goalie for you to feel confident in either in your next guy, or you feel like maybe the Devils, who had 4 goalies before they found Markstrom, right? You don't want to just keep trading and trading after you get rid of Binnington, and now you're in a situation of, I don't know who my guy is anymore.
Right. Braden Shen also being talked about on hockey media trade boards, and the team that seems to be most linked to Braden Shen is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, Shenner has a no trade. He can stay here. And I think with the choice of Shen or O'Reilly, if I were Toronto, I've already been there, done that with Ryan O'Reilly. Shen right now is a better player than Ryan O'Reilly. But my question is this. If Braden Shen isn't in the Blues dressing room, and I talked to people at the rink the other night about this, if Braden Shen isn't in the Blues dressing room, who's the leader? They don't have a guy. You can put a C on anybody, but you don't have a guy that is the leader of the team, a guy that speaks up, a guy that tries to hold other people accountable, a guy that'll drop the gloves off the bat because he understands the code and what needs to be done to be a leader. I don't think the Blues have that guy if Braden Shen isn't in the room.
You may have to experiment. You may have to figure that out
Well, on
your own. If Shen is somebody that you do want to move forward on or move away from, that is, you have to figure out who's going to be that next leader, who will step up. And maybe somebody just needs that transition or that transaction in order to have the ability to step up. But that's not stopping anybody right now, Randy. If somebody really wanted to step up and be a leader too, they could. Braden Shen's not going to knock you for also wanting to try to lead this team and have the ability to be great.
And there have been multiple opportunities to get Braden and Luke back together, the two brothers. And we've had it here in St. Louis. We had it with the Plagers. We had it with the Sutters. It's always fun to have some brothers together. But you don't want to think that, okay, well, Brady and Matthew played together. Brady and Matthew are 2 great players. Just because you have 2 players together that are brothers doesn't mean they're going to all of a sudden play better. It'd be a fun little story. We had Paul and Gino Cavallini here, and we had Gino Cavallini on the air the other night on the Brett Hull 50 and 50 show that we did here on Matrix Midwest. But at the end of the day, no, don't put guys together just because they happen to be brothers.
Yeah, I mean, yes, do they have long-term chemistry on the ice together? Sure. But that doesn't mean that they are absolute superstars. They aren't like the Sedins or the Kachucks. They are probably more like, I mean, would you put LaMelo and Lonzo Ball on the same team and call them Braden Shen and Luke Shen? Probably at this point. So, yeah, it just doesn't work all the time. It is fun, though. It's a fun storyline for fans to follow and be. It's really just fun to see these players kind of just mesh as brothers, one by blood and one as a team.
Later in the show, help us build a parlay. Find a single bet you like on DraftKings and send it to us. Andrew will make a bet. I've got a great bet today. And then you make one, and we'll put them all together to build a parlay. Text in now, 314-624-0414. And if you have any questions, any sports question you have for us, you can either text or email us at thefight@matrixmidwest.com. Despite losing to Arkansas on Saturday, Mizzou's win over Alabama moved them up to 14th in the latest AP poll. Kind of surprised. I'm glad, but I'm kind of surprised that after the loss to Arkansas, they moved up a spot.
I think the committee just blessed them with, hey, I understood the elements that were against you against Arkansas, and I'm not going to knock you for that. The Alabama win was a very good win for this team, too. That was a game where Mizzou really beat Bama at their own game, and they could stand the test of time there. At the end of the day, this Mizzou team is already locked in as a team that's going to make the NCAA tournament. Where they fall, who really knows? It could be a 4, it could be a 5. But did we look this up before? Did you look it up that they had the most quad 1 wins in all of college basketball?
They're tied for 3rd with Auburn.
And I think that matters here too.
Yeah, Auburn easily the top team in the nation. They have, at last check, 14 quad one wins. Nobody else was even in double digits.
And I think that plays into why Mizzou is currently 14.
And there you see Mizzou, number 14, Auburn, Duke, Florida, Houston, Tennessee, Alabama. The top of the rankings still dominated by the SEC. Coming up here on The Fight, the Cardinals might have a surprise entrant in the rotation derby. And guess who gets to see some old buddies tonight? Quick hits next in The Fight here on Matrix Midwest. Could Gordon Graceffo pitch his way into the starting rotation for the Cardinals if he continues to throw the way he did yesterday? He was terrific for the Redbirds, and it seems like now he wasn't one of the guys that was included as a starter in spring training. The way he threw yesterday, because his history is as a starter in the minor leagues, I would hope that the Cardinals will find a spot start for him in spring training. He was outstanding yesterday.
You would have to think so. He's just a great example, Randy, of the maturation process of a player, especially in this organization. This is an organization that prides themselves on being able to develop players, and Gordon Graceffo is, like I said, a great example of that because of what you saw. Those strikeouts that came after the home run. His curveball was very effective, and the way that he was able to forget the one, move on to the next is in due part to that maturation process.
He threw 2 innings. He allowed that 1 home run. That was the only hit he allowed. He struck out 4, didn't walk anybody. This is a guy who a couple of years ago was the Cardinals minor league pitcher of the year. And in his last start, he was perfect for 7 innings. Now it was in Double-A, but you know he has stuff. And the Cardinals are in desperate need of swing and miss stuff. So if you strike out 4 in a couple of innings in a major league game, I don't care if it's spring training or not, you deserve more of an opportunity. And the Cardinals can use starting pitching. There's no doubt about it because of the fact that Michaelis is going to be gone after this year. Matz is going to be gone after this year. Fetty is going to be gone maybe this year, during the year. You're going to have to fill in with young starting pitching. And if Gordon Graceffo has the ability, give him the opportunity to show it.
Open spots allow for that too. So a young pitcher is thinking right now, hey, I could just work my way into the starting rotation immediately because of what's laid out in front of me.
Sad news from the NFL. The Green Bay Packers, a team that everybody likes, cheeseheads and great fans and everything. Yeah, well, not everybody, okay? Show him your cup.
Oh, it's back there.
Okay, he's got a Chicago Bears cup. The Packers submitted a proposal to ban Philadelphia's tush push, which is a great play in the NFL. I know some people don't like it because they think it's too violent. Well, you know what? They don't like it because one team does it well and nobody else does. One team has a massive offensive line. One team has a quarterback that can bench 600 pounds and has incredibly strong legs. Philadelphia is the team. You know what, Green Bay? If you don't like it, play better. That's my line. If you think that the tush push should be rendered illegal, then I think that the G on the side of your helmet should be rendered illegal too.
Crying because they can't. Wah, wah. Okay, Green Bay, if you want to do it too. If you don't want to do it, who cares? Find a way to defend it. But we don't need you standing on top of the mountain screaming your head off because you're sad that your quarterback can't even take a QB sneak. Yes, we saw that last year. Jordan Love false started. He didn't even hike the football. So guess what? No. Cry your way to the river.
At one point, there used to be a rule in the NFL that you couldn't push a player from behind, but the league changed the rule in 2005 because they said it was too hard for officials to see. Now are they going to decide that it's easier for officials to see it? If they change the rule, that's what they'll have to say is, yeah, times have changed and our officials see better now. I don't think so. Do you care about spring training results? You know, in 2022, the Cardinals had the best Grapefruit League record and then won 93 games. In 2023, the Cardinals had the best Grapefruit League record and lost 91 games. I think that this is a situation where the games matter, but they don't count. So I'm paying attention this year to the individual performance of players, but I'm not paying attention to the result of the games. By the way, in those same 2 spring trainings where the Cardinals had the best record among teams in the Grapefruit League, the Angels had the best Cactus League record. The Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles, California, USA, and we know how those seasons worked out in Anaheim.
You hit the nail on the head, Randy. This is all about reps. That's it. Giving the guys a stage to play in what you could probably call a glorified scrimmage. That's what spring training is. The outcome doesn't matter, but the results of each individual player does. Even though a coaching staff might tell you, hey, just because you gave up 8 hits and 4 runs, just don't worry about it. No. In the back of your mind, you should worry about it because you're trying to earn a spot when you are playing in spring. When you're a young player, you're not locked in like a guy like Nolan Arenado or Wilson Contreras. You're trying to earn your spot, and that's why these reps are important.
Even with a guy like Contreras at first base, I look at it this way. Lars Nootbaar hasn't played enough. His all-time high in games played is 117. We know the center fielders haven't played. It's probably Ciani. Walker needs reps. Mason Wynn is not a veteran player. Donovan isn't a veteran player. Contreras at first isn't. The catchers. So I'm even looking at the regular season as an extension of spring training where I want to see players get better and better. It's not just spring training this year for the Cardinals. It's the whole season where they need to develop guys and have them get better. Tonight in LA at what should be the Staples Center, but now it's Crypto.com Arena, Luka and the Lakers take on the Dallas Mavericks, his former team, a team without AD. Street clothes will not be in uniform for Dallas. Shocker.
Yeah.
Is Luka back at the perfect time for the Lakers?
I think so. I absolutely think so, and I'm also with you. This is the Staples Center, and it will always forever be the Staples Center. No, Luka is playing great basketball, and I think the Lakers have done a really good job of helping him acclimate to their team chemistry. J.J. Redick did something that I thought not a lot of coaches do for superstars. Just go play your game. But they have LeBron James, so LeBron James should be the one that's kind of calling all the shots. But LeBron's also telling Luka, no, go be Luka. Go out there and do your thing. He's going to go off tonight, Randy. Emotions are high.
I ask you, though, overall for the Lakers, who is Jackson Hayes? Jackson Hayes is the starting center for the LA Lakers. Yeah, they don't have a big man. And once they get to the playoffs and they need a rim protector, they don't really have that guy. Yeah, they might outscore some people during the course of the regular season because of LeBron and Luka. But when it comes time for the rubber to hit the road in the playoffs, they aren't going to be able to defend anybody else's good big men. And I think that's going to be a problem. But it'll be fun to watch the Luka and LeBron show tonight because the big men for Dallas aren't really there right now either.
Just put LeBron inside. He can body up against everybody. These guys are all 6'8" now and look, well, they don't look like us. They probably look at if we combined muscle. Well, maybe, Steve Rogers, Captain America, you know how he got injected with the super serum? That's how we would both look if we played in the NBA.
Thanks to Paul Goldschmidt, who's now the Yankees' first baseman, Anthony Rizzo, the former Yankee first baseman, doesn't have a place to play Major League Baseball this year. He says he wants to play, but I wonder how much juice is left in the tank. He didn't have a very healthy season last year. He's a great leader, but I just don't see a team out there that would sacrifice to have an injury-riddled first base. Certainly it's not going to be a good team. If he wants to play for a good team, I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe he goes to essentially his hometown Marlins and is there kind of as a mascot or something like that. He's a good leadership guy, good clubhouse guy, but I just don't see Anthony Rizzo being an impact player anymore for a good team.
The only good team that I could see him going back to is the Cubs because they have that previous relationship. And also, Michael Busch just isn't really cutting it right now. And it's not like you have all this time in Chicago to consistently get Michael Busch ready to go so that you could take off as a team. No, Kyle Tucker's like in the middle of his prime. Dansby Swanson's on the back end of what he can be. You have Justin Turner, who's just kind of there now as a 40-year-old. But this team doesn't have 3-4 years and then, hey, they could be in a World Series. No, they want to go now, and Michael Busch isn't cutting it right now.
Yeah, I don't know that the Cubs are good enough, even if they get Anthony Rizzo, to go to a World Series. And at least Michael Busch has a chance to get better. I think that we've probably seen the best that Anthony Rizzo has to offer. Maybe an honorary coaching spot with the Cubs, but I just don't see Anthony Rizzo being a guy that's going to make an impact for a good team in 2025 and beyond.
What would you pay a guy like him?
Great guy. $760,000. That's a minimum, right?
See, he's going to want to make $3-4 million.
Yeah, if he was going to make $3 or $4 million, I think it already would have happened for Anthony Rizzo. All right, here's what we got coming up here on The Fight with Andrew. Yeah, we had Anthony Rizzo
on the top of mind.
Yeah, so that's Andrew. I'm Randy.
I wish I was Anthony
And
Rizzo.
Coming up, we're going to head down to Florida, and we're going to talk to our friend Katie Wu of The Athletic. Katie is standing by and joins us next on The Fight on Matrix Midwest. Every Tuesday on The Fight, Katie Wu of The Athletic joins us. You can also check out Katie and Trevor Rosenthal on the Cards Territory podcast. The former Cardinal closer and Katie always have great material. And she's, of course, our teammate here at First Alert 4 and Matrix Midwest. Katie, good morning and congratulations on an amazingly detailed story in The Athletic regarding how the whole Nolan Arenado saga unfolded from late last season all the way up until he arrived in camp. Congratulations on that.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate that. At some point, this seemingly never-ending saga will reach an end. But as we're finding out 2 weeks into Cardinals camp here, it will remain a storyline whether or not Nolan Arenado will be the Cardinals' third baseman going forward. It seems like he will be, but Randy, as we saw over the weekend, rumors pop up, and this is something that I think we're going to have to see deal with for at least the next few weeks.
And part of your story was that the trade with Houston was at the 1 yard line. And then there were other reports from MLB.com, of course, last weekend that you're aware of, that the Astros had kind of re-engaged. But if I'm in Mo's shoes and I was at the 1 yard line with Houston before, I'm going to feel like I got burned. Do you get that sense that he feels like, okay, I'm not going to say anything because I had this thing before and it didn't happen?
I can certainly understand that, but the situation, as we highlighted in The Athletic, when Nolan first said no to the Astros in December, didn't really have anything to do with the Astros at all. It had more or less something to do with Nolan not being sure on where he wanted to go, the direction that Houston was going after trading Kyle Tucker and probably not bringing back Alex Bregman at the time. Nolan also didn't know what his market looked like. Now, fast forward to the mid-February, we have a lot better understanding of what that market looks like. So the reason that this is going to be something that we continue to check in on is because it all hinges on if Nolan Arenado wants to go somewhere or if he doesn't. And players are entitled to change their mind. I mean, we saw this in the first half of the saga, if you will. He was going to consider a trade to Houston. The opportunity was presented to him. He decided he did not want to go. But as we know, Randy, nothing in sports is definitive. So I imagine we'll be continuing to check on this again as the spring and perhaps early season transpires.
Well, Katie, another branch off of this saga is this. Do you think Chaim Bloom is eager for an Arenado deal to happen this year, so his first big move isn't sending the future Hall of Famer elsewhere like the Mookie Betts thing?
Yeah, this is a great point, and definitely something I've talked about with the other writers and other media in the market, and it makes sense, right? I think it'd be unfair for me to comment on what Chaim wants because I haven't talked to him specifically. But given what he had to do in his first stint as the chief baseball officer for the Boston Red Sox and trading Mookie Betts, I don't necessarily think he would love the idea of coming into a brand new organization and doing the same thing and trading Nolan Arenado. What I think the front office wanted to do and why they were so motivated to move Nolan over the offseason was because, they wanted to reduce payroll. We've talked about this extensively with Bill DeWitt Jr. and Bill DeWitt III, but also they wanted to create that runway, the buzzword of the offseason, if you will. And neither of that happened. I think if you're Chaim Bloom, the benefit to trading Nolan Arenado or not having to is that you at least have that opportunity and that runway for these players to go run out in 2025. We've talked about it all spring long. They still have that to some extent, but certainly not the way they wanted to. I do think it's a great point, though. I can't imagine him wanting to come in and immediately dealing another franchise player again.
Katie, in our last segment, Andrew and I talked about Graceffo's performance yesterday. What did you think of him?
This is someone that I think is being fully factored into the bullpen plans, and it was a good performance. We get the home run in his first sitting out there. I think you can just kind of chalk that up to working on things, but it was an electric performance after that. You're seeing the stamina, you're seeing the velo, and this is a big thing that the Cardinals were working on. I had a chance to talk to Gordon Graceffo over the offseason, and he went to Tread and basically worked on fixing that fluctuating velo and fluctuating command problems that plagued him in 2024. If Gordon Graceffo can find a way to sustain velocity, I can see him maybe being used as a starter. But for now, because his velo plays up in these short stints, I think he's an underrated candidate to be in that bullpen. And I think that's what the Cardinals are looking for as well.
Katie, roughly 50 different players is what we've seen over 3 games. Who's got your way too early vote of confidence?
Okay, I'll preface this with confidence for whatever level he ends up, and that will not be the major league roster, but J.J. Weatherholt certainly is all of the hype that comes with being a top 10 first-round draft pick. And this goes back to, obviously, his home run on Sunday's game was exciting, first Cardinals spring homer of the year. But what he did for the Cardinals in the backfield during their practices, if you will, he was must-watch batting practice. The way that he would command, I remember a specific bat against Ryan Helsley, what he was doing with other guys in lives. I mean, staff and executives would stop and go find JJ and watch his lives. He is certainly exciting. You never want to rush a prospect up through the minors, but I do think with JJ, you can start him semi-early and semi-high because he's a collegiate player with a lot of experience, and maybe we can go from there. I do expect him to make the 2024 opening day roster. No, of course not. But I do think he's going to be someone to watch in the upper levels of the Cardinals farm system starting this season.
And Katie, Jordan Walker, another former prospect for the Cardinals, and they still have high hopes for him. A couple of hits yesterday. How has Walker looked so far?
Walker looks confident, and he looks like he's on a mission. We talked to Ollie Marmol before Monday's game on what he needs to see from guys like Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman, and what he needed to see was exactly that. Hitting the ball hard and hitting the ball in the air. Jordan Walker, 2 line drive base hits on Monday's game. The first one, 105-mile-per-hour exit velocity on a line drive up the middle. The second hit, a double down the left field line, drove in a run. And it just has the sound, the Jordan Walker sound. You know it, Randy. You know what that sounds like. If we can see that more consistently, look, there are going to be times where the results don't necessarily reflect something good on the box score, but spring training stats are just spring training stats exactly, right? As what we're looking for with Jordan Walker is consistency in hitting the ball hard, consistency in hitting the ball air. Production, maybe that matters, maybe it doesn't in spring, but for now it's all about the hitter's profile, and I thought yesterday was a big first step for Jordan.
Katie, from afar, it looks as though Wilson Contreras is really adapting well to first base. Would you say that's accurate?
I think so. Hey, I mean, 5 ground ball outs from Steven Matz in the first 2 innings will certainly let a first baseman know if his positioning is right. But look, there's a lot of hype over this and a lot of controversy, if you will, about if Contreras can handle first base. He sure looks fine to me. This is a position he played in Chicago. Now, so he was obviously a starting catcher, but it's not like he's never played the position before. We talked to Wilson. He said he hears the naysayers, he hears the skeptics, and he says he doesn't care. That's me making that statement TV friendly. That wasn't exactly what he said, but we can't repeat that on live TV. But I think with Contreras, it's just about the confidence. He likes being the underdog. He likes being told he can't do something. Like I said before, he looks like a first baseman. He's been swinging the bat like a power hitting first baseman, and his fundamentals on first base have been just fine.
Katie, speaking of catchers, you and I have both heard from management people and people in the Cardinal organization that Ivan Herrera just doesn't have a good arm, and that was borne out last year. 6 of 59 stolen base attempts were successfully thrown out by Herrera. Have you had a chance to see his arm yet, and is there any difference in 2025?
With my first week here, I went to the backfields and I watched Herrera do a little bit of a throwing program. And it's really hard to tell until we see that in game action, right? You can practice your fundamentals all you want, but until you're in an actual game day scenario, it's really hard to see just where those advancements have been made. I will say, talking to bullpen catcher Jamie Pogue, he has been very excited about the work Herrera has done. And I've seen a different kind of confidence with Herrera in my conversations with him as well. I mean, we know he's essentially been a bat-first catcher, but the work that he's done behind the scenes to improve defensively, framing, blocking, that's been really well done. Now it's just a matter of if he can throw runners out. Because if the Cardinals can capitalize on decreasing the run game, I think all of a sudden you might have a clear advantage on who the starting catcher could be. And that could be Herrera just because of the bat. The Cardinals have a very left-handed heavy lineup, again, very similar to last year. But Herrera from the right side brings some good thump. And you need supplementary bats behind Nolan Arenado and Wilson Contreras from the right side. And I think Herrera brings that. Now it's just a matter of, can he nail down the throwing game? Can he actually control the run game? And I think we'll see that. It will certainly be something to watch over the next few weeks.
Another position battle still developing is in center field. At what point do you think, Katie, we'll know who gets the start on opening day?
I think we'll know that on opening day. Honestly, guys, I think the center field competition is the biggest competition in camp this year, not just because there are 3 legitimate frontrunners for the position, and Lars Nootbaar, Victor Scott, and Mike Ciani, but because of the trickle-down effects based on if you start which player where. And there's a case to be made for starting a player in center field or not starting a player in center field for all 3 of these guys. Some of these cases are stronger than the others, but what really I think makes this the big question for camp is what the Cardinals do after. If you start Lars Nootbaar in center field, I think that the Cardinals would say, and maybe Lars himself would say, that the better defensive options are Michael Ciani and Victor Scott II. But the Cardinals might feel like they need to start Lars Nootbaar in center field so they can give ample playing time to Nolan Gorman and Brendan Donovan. Now, if the Cardinals want to go with their best option right now, I think they'd lean to Ciani. If they want to go for the best option for the future, I think they'd go Victor Scott II. So, as you can see, there's no easy choice here, and this competition will go down to the final day of spring, and not just because of who has the best performance, but because of how it impacts several other players on the roster as well.
And speaking of impact, it's really interesting to me that competition in center field is the fallout of Arenado being here, isn't it? Because Nootbaar ordinarily would be slotted into left. Center field would be between Siani and Victor Scott II. You'd have Donovan in at second base. There wouldn't even be talk about him playing left because Gorman is playing second. There's so many tentacles to Nolan Arenado being here, and the center field competition is one of them.
Right, and we talked about this. We talked about how I think the main storyline was if Nolan Arenado stayed, what would that mean for Nolan Gorman? It doesn't mean anything. It just means that he's going to not play third base instead of second base, but his playing time is still guaranteed. Who this really impacts are the second tier of players. The Cardinals have already prioritized the young players they want to see every day. They are Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker, and Lars Nootbaar. What this means for guys like Michael Siani, Victor Scott II, Alec Burleson, Luken Baker, those are the ones that are impacted by Nolan Arenado staying. And the Cardinals, yes, they need to figure out where they're going to be with center field. They also need to figure out where Alec Burleson is best suited. He's been taking a lot of reps at first base, but obviously Contreras has that position locked up. So the Cardinals have their work cut out for them. We'll see where it goes, but those two positions, those two players, I should say, Burleson and Lars Nootbaar are the ones that I am watching.
Katie, what are the expectations for Quinn Matthews as he starts against Toronto today?
Yeah, that's exciting. I wish I was going to be there for that. I think the expectation is to go see what he's got, see how his ball plays against major league hitters. Of course, he has a draw against maybe not the nicest draw out there. Max Scherzer gets the nod for Toronto today. But I think for Quinn Matthews, it's just to see how his stuff plays in a somewhat big league environment. He's slated to go about 2 innings, and they'll go from there. But for Quinn Matthews, again, it's just, hey, how can you adjust to this kind of environment? This is something new for you. How does your stuff play? And it's 2 innings, guys, so it might not be exactly how he wants his pitch mix to be or how he'd use it in a real game scenario. A lot of times this spring, pitchers are just trying to find their feel for pitches. We saw this with Steven Matz yesterday. He went through his full arsenal and was throwing off speeds and counts he normally wouldn't, fastball and counts he normally wouldn't. So I wouldn't read too much into the pitch mix from Quinn Matthews today. I would just look more into the results and how he handles maybe kind of any adversity he gets into.
All right, Katie Wu, we know you're very busy. When's the next time a Cards Territory podcast with Trevor Rosenthal and Katie Wu drops?
We'll drop tomorrow, Wednesday morning. Lots of stuff to break down now that we have some actual Cardinals games under our belt. Starting to feel a little bit more like baseball season, guys.
Great stuff, Katie, as always. Thank you.
You got it.
Katie Wu from The Athletic and the Cards Territory podcast, and right here at First Alert 4 and Matrix Midwest. Coming up, we need your help to make a parlay. We'll each make a bet, and then you can text in to help us out with your single bet on DraftKings for a game tonight. Text in 314-624-0414, and you can participate with us right here in the fight. All right, time for us to build a parlay, and we've got some help from you, which we always appreciate. You can text in or email us at thefight@matrixmidwest.com. But we're going to build a 3-leg parlay tonight. Luka Doncic faces the Mavericks for the first time since they traded him to the Lakers. Now, early this morning, he was plus 320 to score 40-plus points. Now, that has gone to plus 3. That's actually changed within the last minute. He was at plus 300. Now he's up at plus 310. I'm going to lock in Doncic to score 40-plus against his former team, the Mavericks. He's pissed. So I've got that. I've got Luka to score 40-plus tonight against his former team, the Mavericks.
Total revenge game. I think he's only gone over 40 one time in like the last 10 games, but this is that emotion.
And he scored 32 on Saturday night, so he's primed and ready to go.
He is totally locked and loaded. My game on the college basketball slate, we are headed out to Mizzou. They are 13.5-point favorites over South Carolina, but I'm going to avoid the line. A little bit too much on the point side for me to feel confident. But I will take the over 146.5 because life's too short to bet the under, and they've covered 7 of the previous 10.
They had 208 points in a game a week ago. That's easy. That'll be done by halftime.
Yeah, we just don't have Alabama to help us out to get to that 200 mark. But I like that number for this game.
All right, and we also appreciate our listener from North County. Scott is checking in, and he has Duke and Miami tonight. What's he got?
The best player in college basketball, Cooper Flagg, 21 plus against Miami. That's minus 110, which I think is a very good bet because Duke is favorited by over 20 points. So Cooper Flagg's going to have a good game in order for that all to take place. Our parlay is plus 1428, Randy, which means we put 100 on it, and that will pay out over $1,400.
And that one has a legit chance to win for us. We have made a good parlay tonight. This is one that we'll keep an eye on.
I need him to bet more on table tennis, though.
I rocked yesterday in table tennis.
He was the only one that hit it.
Yep.
Everybody else, including me, I brought all those stats to the table with FAMU, and let's just say I got a big, blank U.
This being said, I am going to be very angry if there's a table tennis question on the fight on Friday. I just want you to know. All right, that's today's Build a Parlay. And don't forget, we need you to help build the parlay. If you already have an idea for tomorrow, text us or email us now because we want to hear from you. Coming up, we've got Take It or Leave It plus birthdays and anniversaries. This is quite an anniversary day. It's next on The Fight. Time for Take It or Leave It, and this is a post on X from the Minnesota Twins yesterday. This spring, whenever a child asks Royce Lewis of the Twins for an autograph, he asks them to sign his cap. Take it or leave it. There should be a player on every team that does this for kids.
Take it, 100%, because right now, baseball's in dire need of rising the game, rising the growth of the game, and getting young kids bought into the game. This is how you do it. When you walk by a bunch of kids standing on the foul line, just clamoring for your autograph, I know it can be annoying sometimes for players, but it's good for you to stop, especially in spring, to just make a kid's day.
Good on Royce Lewis. I will take it as well.
It's just easy. I think that's just so easy to do, too. It's
is.
so easy to be a good person.
And I'm
just
sure
do it for the kids.
Kids are thrilled to see their name on his cap as he's out there on the field. Pretty cool.
I think that's just a great way to go about doing it. My take it or leave it for you is this. The Scotty Scheffler arrest is on full swing. Season 3 premiering today. Take it or leave it. It's now a prerequisite for that department to know all players active on the PGA Tour.
100% take it. If you are the Louisville Police Department, you better know every single player and whether or not they're in the top 5 or if they happen to be the #1 player in the world. Yes, you should know that.
They are getting quizzed as we speak. I'll leave it just because I doubt that they really cared that much. There was a ton of backlash for it, though. And the fact that they were asking him, like, oh, is Tiger pretty good? Or you're Scotty Scheffler, Randy. Are you pretty good? I'm all right.
Yeah. Come on, guys. Director Tyler has a good one. At the Houston Texas Tech game last night, a fan made an incredible, and I mean incredible, full court or cross court putt. Putting on grass is hard enough, but on hardwood, how does he get to celebrate? With the one and only Patrick Mahomes. How about that? So take it or leave it. You give up whatever prize they're offering, could be a new car, I don't know, to be able to do that with Patrick Mahomes. I'm taking it.
I'm taking it too.
Yeah,
that
awesome.
moment right there would be the difference for me just in life for at least the next 24 or 48 hours, maybe the rest of my life. Who knows?
And that's on video now forever. Your celebration with the GOAT, Patrick Mahomes.
All those people that bury putts full court nowadays. I feel like we see
amazing.
this all the time now.
Yeah, pretty amazing. All right, coming up, we have some birthdays for you, and we've also got some anniversaries. So those are coming your way here on the opening, on the fight. And we're going to start with Cardinals starting pitcher Eric Fetty. He's 32 today. So happy birthday to Eric Fetty. Hope he gets to spend some time in Jupiter with his family. Also, former Cardinal lefty Ken Daly, probably tuned in. He's 66 today. 1985 playoffs. He was our best player in the 1985 playoffs. 1985 Cardinal hero Cesar Cedeno is 74 today. I did not see that coming. He's 74 years old. Wow. He hit .434 for the Cardinals down the stretch in 1985, 6 homers, 19 RBIs. He was amazing. And former Blues winger John Smirk, 69. Didn't get much time with the Blues, but he was here, and once a Blue, always a Blue. So
happy birthday to all four,
to John Smirk. East St. Louis native and former St. Louis Rams linebacker Dana Howard is 53. He had a great career at the University of Illinois and got a chance to play for the Rams in their first year here in St. Louis. And I had no idea that this guy's birthday was today. I thugh it was 7/9, but no. Former Rams coach Jeff Fisher is 67. He prepared the Rams to get out of town, and there he is trying to find his red flag with his giant coat in New England. Birthday. I'm not going happy.
It's just birthday today.
Just birthday. Jeff Fisher, 67. All right, time for some anniversaries. On this date in 1972, this is abysmal. The worst trade in Cardinal history. They sent Steve Carlton to the Philadelphia Phillies for pitcher Rick Wise. Both players were involved in salary disputes. Carlton would go on to win 329 games and strike out more than 41 hitters. He's a finalist for the Cardinals Hall of Fame this year, already in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Happy birthday to, or a happy anniversary, I guess, Steve Carlton, but not to the Cardinals for trading him on this date in 1972.
Gosh. I mean, all I can think about in my head was what was going through their heads at the time.
$5,000 is what he left over. And he was walking down the hall to say, I'll accept your offer. And he gets pulled aside from the general manager and says, they tell him, yeah, you're getting traded to the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
We talk about arbitration nowadays and how teams are cheap and don't want to pay $500,000. $5 grand?
$5 grand.
Over $5 grand?
Yeah. And people with that team say that the Cardinals missed out on 4 division titles because Carlton wasn't with them in the 70s. On this date in 1981, the MLBPA Executive Board voted unanimously to strike on May 29th if the issue of free agent compensation remained unresolved. Well, they did wind up going on strike in June and played a split season. Cardinals finished second in both halves, but had the best record overall in the NL East. And because they didn't make the playoffs after having the best record, owner Gussie Busch got Commissioner Bowie Kuhn fired.
Well, that feels like a little bit like high school COVID, right? They played half a season. That's at least what it reminds me of, because I didn't get to experience that strike, let alone do I get to experience a lot of strikes.
Thank goodness that you didn't. Okay, a ton of stuff on TV today, this afternoon. Cardinals and Blue Jays are on FanDuel at noon, so you'll be able to check that out. Redbirds back on TV today. The Blues and the Seattle Kraken are at Enterprise Center at 7 o'clock. Also on FanDuel. Tonight you've got SLU at Davidson at 6 o'clock. They're on ESPN+, so you need to get that set up early. Mizzou hosts South Carolina at 8 on ESPNU. And as we mentioned, the Mavericks will visit Luka and the Lakers at 9 o'clock tonight on TNT. A great day and night of sports capped by Luka taking on the Mavericks. Should be a lot of fun.
Hopefully you have no plans, and your only plan is to sit in front of the TV.
Yeah, all day, starting, now. And by the way, we will be rebroadcast tonight from 6 to 7 here on Matrix Midwest as well. We appreciate, as always, you tuning in. For Andrew Rogers and our director, Tyler Klaus, I'm Randy Karraker. Have a terrific Tuesday, St. Louis.